Good Sunday morning and welcome to WGN-TV Political Report. The stage is already set and tomorrow the Democratic National Convention in Chicago finally gets underway. Convention organizers unveiling the podium on Thursday where Kamala Harris will give her speech this week, going from vice president to presidential nominee. This morning, around 50,000 Democrats, delegates, journalists, and more are streaming into Chicago before the DNC officially kicks off tomorrow night. But the parties and the protests, they're already underway. City and state leaders viewing the week as a chance to show off not just the Democrats' message, but all the city has to offer as well. Well, joining me this morning in our powerhouse panel, we have Alex Sims Jones, the founder of nonprofit Black Bench Chicago and CEO of APS and Associates, who has worked with Governor Pritzker, the Obama Foundation, Kim Foxx, and many more. Lisa Duarte is a partner at Croke Fairchild Duarte and Barris and president of Point of Different Strategies, and who has previously worked for both Mayor Emanuel and the governor. And Marie Newman, the former Illinois Congresswoman from Illinois' 3rd District. Welcome all of you. Thanks for coming in. Hello. Spending part of your weekend with us. All right, so the party's already beginning. Official business getting underway tomorrow. Conventions, usually a time for the party to spread their message to a captive audience. That being said, let me ask each of you, what are you looking for from Democrats throughout the course of the week, given everything that's happened over the course of this summer? Congresswoman Maria, we'll start with you.
Well, I'll applaud them at what they're doing beautifully, right? The Harris-Walz campaign is doing the big 3 Fs, right? Freedom, future, and fairness. So she's going right after price gouging, which is what everybody is really on top of everybody's mind. So couldn't be more thrilled with the speeches that they're giving right now. I think they need to continue on that economic message and the super practical. And I just love Tim Walz's Walzies, I call them, where he'll say something like, mind your own damn business. It's so perfect. So bravo.
He does come up with colloquial phrases, right? Lisa, what are you looking for this week?
You know, I think they did an interesting job by doubling down with Tim Walz on the base of the party. What I would like to see is similar to Marie said, is that they should focus on the economic message and bring the things that are important to people on the fringe, you know, the moderates, the swing states, help bring them in. She's done a great job establishing herself in the kind of the social media. This is somebody I want to hang out with. She's really cool, but she really needs to identify herself as an individual candidate, what her agenda is and what she's going to bring to the country.
Alice?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that they're focusing on the strong, diverse economy. And I think what's exciting about Chicago is we have that. So being here for the DNC, we're showcasing that strong, diverse economy. We're talking about things like the minimum wage. We've done that here in Chicago. So for them to cover that on the campaign trail and show it to all of our delegates, I think they're starting to build that energy.
So as we know, the shift from Biden to Harris happened sort of quickly just some weeks ago. It sounds like all of you are on board with the Walz pick as the vice presidential pick. A lot of people thought it might be Josh Shapiro. Lisa, were you on board initially with him?
There's nothing we can do about it right now.
Okay, so that's the pick, and it is where we are. But let me look to tomorrow. Tomorrow is Joe Biden's day. And Hillary Clinton is going to speak as well. Is it your expectation, or if you were advising them, that tomorrow should be a take a look at the past of those careers, especially Biden, or should it be a look forward for tomorrow? Alex?
Yeah, I think Democrats shouldn't forget what Joe Biden has done. I think Democrats should remember, be thankful for the amazing economy that we have, what all of the jobs that Joe Biden has provided, but it is about looking to the future. We have an energy right now that, you know, I've worked on President Obama's campaign in 2008 and 2012, and what was crazy about that campaign is we had so much energy where the campaign couldn't keep up with it. And we're seeing some of that with Kamala right now. We're seeing vendors popping up t-shirts that you know, are new. We're seeing Swifties for Kamala, things that are just different. And we have some of that energy. So we want to think about the past, but take the energy from the future and ride that wave.
Lisa, same question, but it is maybe interesting that they brought Hillary Clinton on that night. I mean, you know, we've got Obama on Tuesday and Bill Clinton on Wednesday. What do you think that's about? Is there a match there in the message?
They're definitely drawing a thread between women who have run for presidency. I think they're going to go back and revisit the type of, you know, sexism that she faced, to the type of attacks that in modern day politics, and you know, it's not acceptable. And I think that unfortunately we're going to prepare ourselves for, you know, the return of some of the, you know, attacks on women, attacks on, you know, the birther issues that we saw with Obama. Kamala's going to have both that. She's going to get what they dished out on Hillary, and she's going to get what they dished out on Obama. And so I think it's saying, hey, we're here together. We've been through this. We didn't get all the way across the finish line last time, but we're a team. We're a party. We're united. We're going to learn from our previous lessons, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to win.
Yeah, Marie, of course, Joe Biden was supposed to be Thursday night had he been the nominee, so obviously things have switched back. I'm anticipating quite the rousing reception for him.
Oh, I think that he is still beloved. There's just no question. And I think his rate of belovedness went up dramatically when he stepped aside. I think it was the right thing to do, and he did it beautifully and gracefully. And bravo again to the Harris-Walz campaign that immediately they took the baton and they're running it across the finish line here beautifully.
I just want to clear something up for viewers who might be watching, who are feeling like, Harris didn't get one vote. You hear that a lot, right? She didn't get one vote. And so now she's there. Who would like to address the fact that there was Marie, there was a process?
Yeah. There was a process. Well, I'm going to talk about the process secondarily. But first and foremost, in the primary, in the Democratic primary, we vote for a ticket. So she got every bit as many votes as President Biden did. So that's a silly, silly comment. But secondly, there was a process. It was opened up to everyone. Jamie Harris did a really good job of saying, hey, folks, if you want to get in, they all said, no, we would really like VP Harris to be the nominee. We are not going to challenge her.
Or maybe they feared consequences if they did.
Maybe, but they made a good choice because she obviously is doing incredibly well in the polls. She's up 4 points in most polls right now. So they did the right thing. She did the right thing.
And obviously, Lisa, she's riding a positive wave. Lots of good spirit right now. Out of curiosity, she's yet to do an in-depth interview. She says it's coming before the end of the month, although some of her staff walked that back a little bit. We'll see. Are we in a is she in a honeymoon period for herself, or is this a process of a relief that Biden has stepped down? It's somebody new. Is it about her, or is it about the fact that the change happened?
I think it's both. If it was the torch were being passed to somebody that wasn't as charismatic, that didn't represent so much of the diverse components of America, I think it would be a different situation. And I think that it is it's an open question as to how she's going to present herself. Is she going to get out there? Is she going to stick to the points? Is she going to be brief? Is she going to keep her speeches short and to the point, which her opponent is not able to do? It's there for the taking if she can come and present and deliver.
Alex, she's in a really interesting position because she's, as Marie said, she's been part of the ticket, right? She didn't come out of nowhere. She's been vice president. And so on Friday, for example, we'll talk about economics, but she did an economic speech, and a lot of people are watching. Is she separating herself from the Biden administration? Is she taking a new path? What is your view as she moves forward about how she should, by definition, reintroduce herself to America?
I mean, I think she's one of the most experienced people in our party, and I think she can line up against our opponent in any category. So I think it's silly. I mean, even the earlier question about, did she skip over anybody? She was our vice president. So not only was she the most qualified for the job, but she was the highest ranking position. She should be in this role. So I would love to see him or anyone else see her in any kind of topic, in the platform period. So,
can I say something about that?
Absolutely.
I'm so happy you mentioned that, because I think under the Trump administration, we have lost so much of our institutions. We've lost so much of the process, and I think that's really important. And although, it wasn't a traditional step down of the president and the vice president seceded, it was a similar situation. Mm-hmm. And I was really happy to see the Democrats be able to come together, not bicker, but follow what we all understand as a country to be the proper succession and the proper change of power. And that's really important to America right now.
And Maria, I'm going to come to you in a minute, but Alice, I want to start with you again on this because I want you to talk about what it means to have a woman of color in this position, what it means to, obviously, to little girls and all that stuff. And then, of course, I want to talk to you guys about the difference in campaign strategy this triggers, but for beginners.
Yeah, I mean, it's a historic moment. And I think that, as someone who worked with President Obama's campaign and now working on the DNC, I can't put into words how much it means that our country can get behind and trust Black women in this moment. She represents so much for so many of us, and she's fought for that position. And that the fact that the Democratic Party got behind her and supported her, it means a lot to all of us.
Do you have campaign strategy advice for her that would be different from what Hillary Clinton might have followed?
I think that there's a lot of strategies to follow that she's probably reviewing. She's testing a lot of things. She's testing messaging, all the things she should be doing.
Like go to Wisconsin.
Yeah, right. Go to every single swing state as much as you possibly can. Just, rinse, wash, repeat through those states, so for sure. But her message around freedom and reclaiming that message is so critical because A, it's exciting, it's appropriate because we are the party of freedom.
Let me ask you, Lisa, she needs to reach rural areas and people who live and grew up in those areas. But you often find a skepticism or bias there when it comes to gender and race. What advice do you have to reach people in areas, maybe even like downstate Illinois?
You know, I think that she is specifically and most recently in her economic plan, she's putting forth policy issues that transcend any type of geography or racial issues. You know, everyone's out there buying groceries. Everyone's out there needing to purchase insulin. Everyone needs better Medicare, right? So she needs to go focus on the things that unite us, move a little bit away from kind of the grassroots, every little small group identifying, rising up, and talk about the things that unite us. Talk about being a mother, because she is a mother to her stepchildren, despite what people might want to take away from her. She's a daughter, she's a sister. You know, those things. Talk about the things that unite. And I think that Tim Walz would be really helpful in those spaces.